Let's work out how much this thing cost. My van, my home. I'll show you a bit around it first, actually. Just a brief one. Office space at the back. Bed. Bench seat rather. Kitchen. Kettle at the back. Shower screen. Bit of storage. TV. Another bench seat. My other van. Job's a good one. So, how much did that cost? Bloody hell. Okay, so I've just worked out what I've spent on my van so far, and it's a little more than I thought, to be honest. Yeah, but little things add up, because there's lots and lots of little things, it seems. Anyway, let's go back to the start. 2025, early February, that's when I bought the van. I'd been looking at doing it for some time before that. It got me quite excited to think about the project, which was buying a van, converting it into a camper van that will be comfy, and that I could live in if I chose to, which I have. So I sold my part of the house that I was in with my ex, and I bought a van. I drove to Leicester to pick it up. It's a Mercedes Sprinter, a long wheelbase van. And I got straight to it, converting it, thinking it'd be done in 2 or 3 months and that'll be it. But it's now May 2026. And although I'm in it, it's still not finished. You can see over my shoulder here, little things like a switch required for the gas level sensor, and yeah, there's painting and filling, and the shower hasn't gone in yet. There's lots to do, but I wanted to work out what I've spent, and break it down if I can. And it's, yeah, you know, if any of you want to do a similar thing in the future, it might give you an idea of what things cost. Obviously, you can do things a lot more cheaper. You could spend twice the money I've spent. I've done all the labour myself. I did have a hand through one of my lads who worked for me, or 2 of them, when we had some quiet time. But everything else I've done myself. Barring the windows, I wasn't prepared to cut the windows in. I jibbed out. Got someone to do that, a professional. But that was in the first week I bought the van. And everything else since then has been me. So, components in the van, and I'm going to break all this down cost-wise if I can. Bought the van. First thing I did was buy windows. I bought too many, actually, because I bought one for the side door, the rear panel, the one behind me here at the back of the van. So yeah, so there's 2 at the front on the sides, 2 at the back on the sides, and I bought 2 for the barn doors on the back, but I didn't actually put them in. I had them fitted, but I didn't cut the aperture, so it just looks like a fake window, basically. So that was the first thing. And then I stuck a fan in the roof, a Max Air fan, 400 by 400 mil. It extracts air and it brings fresh air in. Very good, remote control. They were the first 2 things I did. God, and then the work began. Ripping out the old floor, the old ply, getting rid of the old rubbish, cleaning it up inside. And then we had to put in sound insulation. Sound deadening and insulation. So I installed a dodo mat, sound deadening to each panel. Then I put a 6mm sort of space blanket looking thing in. No, I didn't. I put some recycled bottle wool into all the panels. Covered it all with a space blanket. Put more recycled bottle wool in. Covered it again with more 6mm thermaliner. I can show you it, actually. I've got some here. That's what it is. Basically, the whole van's wrapped in that. There's 6mm. It's wrapped in it twice. But yeah, very warm in here, and it's very quiet in here. So, sound deadening, insulation, plywood, you know, all the timber that's gone in here, all the cabinetry timber, all the furniture for the doors, the handles, the hinges, paint, The electrical side of things, we've got 555 watts of solar, 280 amp hour lithium ion battery, 1200 VA inverter charger, 50 amp DC to DC charging, electric hookup, all of that. We've got a Truma 40 combi boiler which runs off gas, LPG. All my tanks are slung under the van. I've got a 30 litre LPG gas tank. I've got 42 litres of waste, which is behind the passenger seat under the van between the chassis rails, and to the rear of the van underneath where I'm sat now I've got an 80 litre waste freshwater tank rather. They were made bespoke by a company called Barrett Tanks, and they were fantastic. Shout out the Barrett Tanks. The shower enclosure, obviously what's gone in there, the shower tray itself is bespoke. It's made of stainless steel. I mean, that alone 600 quid, so you can see where this is going to go in terms of the finances. The doors, I've got a roll door, aqua door on the shower. I've got an insulated zip door on the front which will lead me into the cab. Headliner shelf above the cab. The cooker, the fridge, it's a Thetford Spinflow triplex cooker, which is it's a triplex. It's got a three burner hob, and it's got an oven and grill, and it runs off LPG, and it's great. Although a little small, you wouldn't stick a turkey in there. I've got a Dometic NRX ATC fridge, I believe, a 75 litre fridge, which is great for me on my own in here. It will keep my leftover takeaways cold. Blinds for the windows, they had to go in. I've panelled the ceiling. I'll go through all this, the actual build at some point, but I've panelled the ceiling. That's all insulated obviously as well. I've got LED lighting everywhere, LED lights behind me with USB and USB-C chargers on them. Sorry, I just blinded you then. We've had to buy gas alarms, CO alarms, an insulated screen for the, I'll just switch this off. Insulated screen for the back door. All the upholstery and all the seats and cushions were made by myself. That was fun. And I did that a cheap way, which is buy a mattress and cut it up. What else? Got a TV in here. I've got a Starlink Mini, so I've got full internet. But you know, this is money. What else have I got looking around? You know, the 230 volt sockets. I've got decorative switches and stuff like that. Tiles, adhesive tiles behind the kitchen, the sink. You know, lots of the gas tank was 800 quid nearly. Aqua board on the walls in the shower. I've still not tiled or decided what I'm going to do there yet, but just I've got pages of it. I don't even, it's going to take me ages to break it all down. But we'll start with the van. How much did I pay for the van? I did jump into the van purchase a little bit because I was so excited. And I don't know the first thing about vans, but I had spent about 12 months prior to starting this, looking around and looking at options for vans. So many people convert the van that I've got now, which is a Mercedes Sprinter long wheelbase. Other options were Rams and ProMasters and Ducatos and Boxers and Relays, and obviously the V-Dub. But yeah, I settled on a Sprinter because that seemed to be very, very common and very popular, and from what I've heard, they're 500,000 mile engines in them. My van's a 2021. I bought it, was 3 years old when I bought it, and it was like end of lease. So I was the first owner after the lease contract ended up with whoever had the van before. I drove to Leicester to buy the van. I didn't, I got a train. But I went to Leicester to pick the van up. And it cost me, including VAT, £25,040, which is a massive chunk of what my budget was straight away. Now, I had two choices, really. I could have got a beat up old van with high mileage and spent more on the conversion, or you get a van that you know is going to be a little bit more reliable and it's going to last you a lot longer, and perhaps try and downplay the actual conversion a little bit, because you can always add to it, you can always improve it, you can always change things. So that's what I went with. So I bought the van, and the first thing I did was the windows. Bought the windows. They cost a lot of money, but they're worth it. They're tinted. 2 of them open. The other 2 are just fixed. But I paid a professional to install them because I didn't trust the process, really. I didn't have enough faith in myself to do it without ballsing it up. So I got the guys in, and they've done a fantastic job, and they offered a lifetime warranty on the work as well. So that's great. But then I put the fan in the ceiling. I'll show you the fan quickly. I can get past all the shit there. That's the fan. Runs off a remote control, which hasn't got a battery in it, but it's got buttons here also, as you can see, on and off. Great for when you're cooking. Anyway, I'm not going too much into that now. We're on about how much things cost. But I cut that one in, and I cut my finger whilst I was doing it, so I'm glad I didn't do the windows. So after that, it's insulation, sound deadening insulation, close all the walls up after you've done the wiring and run the pipes. All the pipes are in the floor, so that was done after anyway. The floor had to have 25mm insulation, and then plywood across the top. I've had to make sort of channels for the gas and the water pipes to go around the base of the van. Some of them are run externally. But anyway, this all adds up. Closing the floors up, closing the walls up, getting the wiring in, buying all the solar stuff and all the electrical stuff, the gas boiler, and then you're onto the timber cabinetry and paint, you know, handles, and just finishing the van off, basically. Getting everything connected. Putting a TV in, got to have a TV. I've got a projector that goes in the back as well, but that was only a few quid, so I'm not worried about that. But lighting, you know, it adds up. It adds up. So I'm going to break it all down. And you might be surprised, you might not be. But I was surprised. So I don't think the van's worth what I've spent on it, I'll be honest. But that's down to whoever's buying. I'm not selling anyway. This is mine. This is my baby. Right. I'm just looking at this. My kettle was 20 quid. So, you know, you've got to factor in kettles as well, because I can't just plug a kettle in here. I had to get a whistling kettle that you stick on a stove. Yeah, all adds up. So, right, we'll start from the top. Right, so the van, that was £25,040. We've already said that, though. And then, as I said, it was the windows. Now, the windows and the accessories that came with it, which was all the channeling and the bonding kits and stuff like that, that was £981.36. And I paid £500 to have them installed, which was an absolute bargain, I thought, the installation part. Because peace of mind for 500 quid. Very good. And then, as I said, the Max Air fan went in. Now, I paid £295 for the fan. I could have got a slightly smaller one. They do one that's 300 by 300, but the cost savings are minimal. And I don't know if you know anything about vans, but the roof isn't flat. It isn't perfectly flat. And you have to cut a hole out the ceiling to sit the fan down into. And vans have ribs on them, on the ceilings like that. And there's certain places I could put the fan. I decided to have it at the front. And there was a company online where I found a flange kit, which sits on the hole you've cut, and the fan sits on the flange, and it avoids having to use so much of the Sikaflex to bond it all in. But that was £93.97 for the flange. I'm not going to factor in any labour here, because although it's cost me a few quid, because as I said, I had some of my boys helping me and I obviously had to pay them. If you're planning on doing this yourself, that's obviously going to be the cheapest way, because I couldn't tell you how many hours. I didn't really document how many hours have gone into this build, but I would say it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. Hours that I've had to find during the day, evenings, weekends. Obviously, you can get a professional company to do all of this. You'd probably end up with a better job and but less money in your pocket, if that's possible, because I've got no money in my pocket. Anyway, so that's the fan, windows and fan. Right, windows, fan, van, insulation and sound deadening. Now, there's a company called Dodo Mat. If you start doing this yourself, you'll do some research yourself, and you'll get a feel for what products are the best. You have to sound deaden the van. They're like lead sort of heavy adhesive things you stick to each panel, and it just takes that tinny effect away. So sound deadening, and then insulation. As I said, I put recycled bottle wool in, and then the space blanket, then I put more bottle wool, and then more space blanket, and in the end it just looked like a big silver, you know, shell internally. But insulation, how much did that cost? Yeah, you might have to give me a couple of minutes here now. Yeah, I'm struggling to come up with an exact figure for the insulation and the sound deadening, because it's been so long, and I should have written all this down. I was going through bank statements and emails and stuff like that, but I'm thinking well, I've got an order here for £550, which with a company who provided the sound deadening, but that didn't cost that. That would have included the insulation. But I'm figuring the insulation and the sound deadening for the whole van was around about £1,000. So that's the figure we're going to work around. It wasn't a lot less than that, and it wasn't a lot more. So let's just call it £1,000 for the sound deadening and the insulation. Okay. Now we're on to the electrical system. Now, there's a company online. You go in all the forums, and everyone's, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? Now, I am an electrician by trade, so I kind of had a little bit of a head start, but I'm not an auto electrician. I don't work too much with voltages less than the 230 or the 415 or 400 volts rather. Obviously in here I've got a 12 volt system. Could have had a 24 volt system, but I've gone for 12. But there are companies online that you can use, and the company I came across was superb actually. And how I came across them before I started this program, and that was another £24 I spent, by the way, was buying a campervan conversion Bible. And the company that I bought it from are called Noma, Nohma. And there's lots of good advice now. I'm not sure I even read it in the end, to be fair, but not cover to cover anyway. But I came across this company called Noma, and that's the company I used when it came to supplying all the electrical equipment. Now, the process was simple. You just made an inquiry. They'll ring you or ask you what you're expecting to put in your van, what do you want to put in your van. You'll then have like a video call with them. They'll come up with a plan for you. They'll make suggestions for you, and then they'll list every component they're going to supply and give you a quotation. And if you pull the trigger, they'll then send you all the kit out in installments. They'll do a three installment plan if you wanted to go that way. But you end up with every component you need. All the cable, all correctly sized and safe to use. All the lugs, the heat shrink. You'll get everything you order. I ended up with 555 watts of solar, which is 385 watt panels on the van, a 1200 VA inverter charger, a 50 amp DC to DC patch. I've spoke about all this before, but and you get all the controls with it and all that. I've got I'll show you quickly. That's my gas boiler, but everything is, oh whoops, better edit her out. All touch control. That's the heating, that's the electrical system. You can see I'm generating at the moment. Anyway, that's another video, another day. Excuse me. Cover that one back up again. So that Servo GX touch controller was everything was included with the Noma spec, and they sent it out all out on a pallet one day, and I unloaded it and put it in my house, and eventually put it in the van. But the cost with the service, obviously no installation charge because you're fitting it yourself, unless you do pay a pro. But all the electrical system, as I said, it's every meter of cable, every lug, every bit of heat shrink, 280 amp hour battery, all the consumer units, the solar charger, the solar panels, the inverter charger, everything, all the fuses, maxi fuses, bus bars, isolation switches, literally everything. And it came to £4,064.96. Now, I've been telling everyone it was about £5,000, so I was about 1,000 out. It was cheaper than that. So worth every penny, and great service from the company I used, and a big headache saving. When you make the purchase, you get the full wiring schematic as well, which you can follow, and it's every component bit by bit. It'll tell you how to install it safely. So very good. So £4,064.96. That's the electrics. Right. Heating and hot water. I'm sorry, I don't think I should be running this through AI really, because I've got this Cornish accent and I'm not sure I've got the voice for radio or TV or the face for it or whatever. But train going past. Don't know if you can hear that. Right. Gas boiler. Now, I had two options here. After I'd chosen to go for like a gas or a fuel burning appliance, my first option would have been to have upsized the electrical system and had a big inverter charger in, but my plan is to be able to go off grid for as long as possible. So if I had an induction hob in here, you know, they're quite heavy on the juice. So I thought gas. If I have gas, I can have gas heating, gas for the hot water, and I can have a gas cooker, which I'll try and use. So I went for gas, went for a Truma 4E combi gas boiler running off the LPG. Now, I said there was options because Truma actually do want to run off diesel as well. Now, the reason I went for the gas instead of the diesel, because I was doing the install myself, if it was the diesel, I would have had to drop the fuel tank in the van, and again, a little bit out of my skill set, I felt. So I opted for the LPG gas version. Another benefit of having the combi 4E, the E stands for electric. So when I am plugged into a campsite or a hookup somewhere, I don't have to use the gas in my tank. I can run the heating and hot water off the electric directly, but primarily it's run off the gas. But that, with all the components, all the pipe and everything you need, and installation diagrams and stuff like that. Quick disclaimer: get it checked after you've before you switch it on, and get your CO alarms in and your gas alarms in, because people die. And I had an incident myself because I'm an idiot. Yeah, anyway, won't go into that. But the gas stuff, the gas boiler, was £1,700.95. £1,700.95. Hey, tanks, water tanks, gas tanks. I've got 3 of them. 2 water, 1 fresh, 1 waste, and 1 gas tank. Now, the most expensive of the tanks is obviously going to be the Autogas 2000 gas tank, which I believe is 30 litres. But when I filled them up the last 2 times, I think so far, they only got about 24 quid in there. So it was less than 30 litres, it seemed. Well, that's all I could get in them anyway. But the gas tank was, where are we? Autogas 2000, £738.74. And with that, you get all the regulator and everything you need to safely install. And you get I think 5 meters of 8mm insulated gas pipe, and a couple of isolators maybe. Yeah, £738.74. The water tanks, that was different. I actually, you do your research is what I'm saying. I was trawling through YouTube, and I bought my water tanks initially from a company online. I can't remember who they were, but it was under the advice of a YouTube video, not dissimilar to this one. But it was the YouTube video from the company who sold the tanks. So I ordered them. They weren't too expensive, I don't think, but they didn't fit. They would have fit if I was American and my van was in the States, but for some reason they just didn't fit. I ended up giving those tanks away. That's the sort of guy I am. But I more research. I managed to get hold of the company I mentioned earlier, which was Barrett Tanks. Sent them a quick email. Again, because of YouTube. But this time I asked the question properly. You know, UK van. I understand you do an 82-litre fresh or 80-litre freshwater tank, 42-litre waste. Do you? Will they fit? This is the van I've got. Yes, no problem. It'll be 400 quid. We'll let you know when they're ready. And they were superb. They advised me on pipe sizes as well for your you know, your plumbing connections. And that was that. £400 for the water tanks. Okay, so the gas tank's in, the water tanks are in, the fan's in, all the everything's wired, all the electrics. First fix has been done. The gas first fix has been done. Windows are cut in, everything's insulated. Now we've got to close the walls up. Now I can't give you an exact figure on this because, you know, I'm buying stainless screws. Some of it I'm buying from Amazon. Sometimes I'm going to Bradford's or to a building supplier. You know, it could be Jewson's or wherever. And so I've got purchases, and they're not. I haven't kept the receipts because I'm an idiot. But you know, I've got £67 B&Q, 105 quid, 191 quid, 42 quid, 156 quid, £309. You know, £165. And yeah, adds up. But I'm figuring with all the ply that's gone in here, I think we've got 80mm ply on the floor, and that's 3 sheets straight away. So you're looking at over 100 quid for the floor. And I've got 12mm ply on the walls. The cabinetry's 12mm ply. Did I use any 6mm anywhere? I don't think I did. I've had to form a bulkhead at the front of the van which separates the cab. So lots and lots and lots of plywood. And I'm figuring, adding it all up here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, with some accessories as well, which I've had to buy, you know, saw blades and sander pads and stuff like that. It's well over £1,000 for just some timber. Also, if you look at the ceiling here, it's sort of an acoustic board look, but just 150mm strips of 15mm pine or whatever it is, I don't know. But you know, all of that is within these figures somewhere, so we'll include that within the £1,000. It's probably more than that, to be honest. But I'm just going to say about £1,000. Yeah, that's closing the walls and the floors up. This is before any of your finishing. You've still got to paint or you know, I've got a vinyl click floor on the floor, for instance. So you know, that's all extras outside of the £1,000. It's my voice boring, it really is, isn't it? Headliner shelf, company called Vancillary, £113. Essential though, because you need as much space as you can get. Then we've got to, how did I finish it? I finished it with just a 4-way stretch carpet, you know, that you find inside of a lot of vans. The fabric, you know, I think I probably spent about £120 in total in stretch fabric, which has gone on the bulkhead, parcel shelf, and the side door, the side opening door, because that's the only way I could think to finish it. Looking for the total here now. Got it written down. God, I should be more prepared here. Right. It's about 130 quid. Again, the way I made this ceiling, I bought a canvas type fabric to go above the timber slats. That was £85 from a local haberdashery. Yeah, £85. And then you've got other things that have not been considered. This is coming to my head. I've spent hours writing this down and I've missed bits. The gas tank before it went in, because it's underslung, needed protecting, so we put some stone chip paint on it. Adhesive for the four-way stretch carpet, all stuff like that. Again, all adds up. The doors, there's 2 doors that we've put in. As I said earlier, we've got a shower door, which is made by a company called the Dower, Thedour. Very good company again. They've given me, well, I've purchased from them 2 doors. The first one is a roll door. It's a sliding waterproof door for the shower cubicle. You order the height bespoke, but you cut the width down. They come in like a metre wide and you cut them down. Very easy process, very easy to install. I would recommend them highly. You get different colour choices and that, but company called the Dower, roll door. That door in itself was £309.98. And then you got the door at the front. Now eventually what I'm going to do with the front at the moment is a zip door, and that's always going to stay. There'll be access from the rear where I'm living to the front eventually. That's why I've cut a doorway in and got an insulated door. Well, that door itself was £139.99, so that's a cheap one, but it's thermal and it's got zips both sides, and it will allow you access to the cab if you need to leg it quickly. I have still got to do some work in the front. I've still got a double passenger seat which needs to come out, and I'll put a single in to form a gangway between the two front seats. Yeah, so that's £440 on doors. Well, I'm just going to go through this. Just Starlink Mini. Now, a lot of people will be... I see this question getting asked all the time. What's the best option for the internet? Especially for those of you that are working out your van, you need it to be seamless. Now, Starlink's always going to be the best option if you're not completely against Elon Musk. And a lot of people are, but that's up to you. £180 for a Starlink Mini. Now, it's plug and play. It's so simple. You do have to pay a monthly contract. If you're on a roam package, which I am, so when you drive around, you still got the internet. It's something like £96 a month, which is understandably to a lot of people, myself included, is expensive. But the hardware itself was £180, and you can get cheaper contracts. And it is just plug and play, literally. I've had to buy a little extra device because it runs off a 230-volt inverter at the moment. But it's stepped down through a plug that's plugged into a 230. So we're stepping up the voltage and then stepping back down. I won't go into it, but I've got to make a small change there. And that will cost me about 30 quid to do it. Okay, the shower tray. Mentioned that. Again, it's very hard when you're in caravans and campervans. You can buy caravan shower trays that look ugly and, you know, designed for cassette toilets and stuff like that. But I built the cubicle knowing it was going to have to be a bespoke shower tray because the shower cubicle was bespoke. So I've ended up with a stainless shower tray, which is 800 wide by 600 deep, or thereabouts, and it was 600 quid. It was £600. But your sink waste has to be in a certain place because you have to cut a hole in the floor to run the waste pipes, and you can't cut them in certain places under the van. So anyway, bespoke shower tray, £600. We've already got the windows in, as I've mentioned more than once. Blinds, thermal blinds, and they're insulated. One click blinds, that's the company I used. And again, it's so simple. You can make this hard for yourself, you can, but you know, I built the frames around the windows before I even thought about blinds. And then I just found a company that made bespoke blinds. And it was £258.36 for 3 of them. And they're all about a metre wide by 500 or 600 deep. So for 260 quid to get thermal insulated blackout blinds, and they're You shut the windows down at night, you can't see it. You can't see any light outside. Worth £258, 36p. One-click blinds. Very good. And again, with everything, when you're into these 12-volt systems, you can buy a fridge, can't you, for your house for like 80 quid. You know, if it's the size of the one I got, you can probably get one for a £5. But I have a Dometic NRX 80C. 80C? I'm going to have to look into that price because I'm not sure that's what I paid for it. But they are expensive. It's a 12-volt compressor fridge. It's flawless. It's a brilliant bit of kit. It's got a freezer compartment in the top as well. But as I said earlier, you don't expect to put big birds in there. And when you're cooking on the hob on the top, it's a three-ring burner. If you've got a big saucepan or a big frying pan and you're needing to use an adjacent ring, it's not going to be too easy to do that. You need smaller pans basically, and smaller frying pans. But that was £579.90 for the oven. Have I just backtracked? I was on the fridge just a moment ago. Anyway, the fridge was £925 and the gas oven was £579.90. And I'm just going to go through the some prices now of this book here, of all the smaller bits, because it'll take me ages to go through all this. And I'll give you a figure right at the end, and it will be a thereabouts figure, but quite an accurate one. Right, I bought cabinet hinges, £9.69, gas struts, £21.99. The sink was £126 and 5p with some plumbing attachments, some push button switches, £17.78. Insulated 8mm gas pipe, I had to buy more, £45.99. I had to buy a pipe bender so I could bend it, £11.59. If you haven't got the tools, you need them. You could probably borrow them. I could not. The mixer shower, the shower which I haven't gone in yet, is £72.99. The spotlights in the ceiling, 8 of them were £25.75. They were cheap. And then a load of 12 AWG cable to finish the wiring, £37.98. John Guest plastic pipe elbows, another 40, 50, 60 quid. The carpet lining, we mentioned £62 earlier on. Some more cable, 20 quid. Drill bits, £10. Sikaflex, all your adhesives and stuff like that, 30 quid. Bitumen spray when I'm cutting holes in the van, £5.49. Stone chip, £13. You know, foil tape. This is all stuff that you need, but you don't really think you need, you know. Contact adhesive. Car ramps, because when I'm parked up, it's not very comfortable. You've got to be level. So we've got car ramps, which was £66. Acetone spray. I think that's for when I was putting the fan in and cutting holes. Butyl tape. You'll come across that when you're cutting holes and putting fans in yourself. Rust converter and rust shield. Projector screen. Projector. Magnetic key holder for the kitchen. You know, a tin opener, a bin. Duvets. You know, I've got a magnetic knife block. Magnetic spice racks. The Starlink 30 quid thing I mentioned earlier, tap connectors, the insulated door for the back, because I haven't finished the back door yet, but to keep the heat out and the heat in, and the cold out and the cold in, whatever. There's an insulated screen door gone in. It was £65 just for a little curtain. I've got non-slip things in the drawers for 9 quid. Upholstery fabric, 60 quid. Cushions, you know, I've got multiple cushions. I can't even remember. Some of them were gifts, so I can't even include them. But I did buy some cushions at the back there at the front rather, for £25. Staples and staple gun to do the upholstery. I think the mattress cost me £140. It was a memory foam mattress. So a mattress, 6-inch mattress with a memory foam topper, and I've covered it all myself with ply and staples and upholstery. The upholstery was £200. The wadding you put with when you're doing the upholstery, no idea what that was. Again, I had to do a bit of research, but that was 45 quid. The first bench I had done at the front, I actually paid a company to do, and it was 160, 170 quid, and that was just for the foam. So buy a mattress and cut it up. It's much cheaper. I've got a lagoon table, which is what this is sit on at the moment. It's not actually a lagoon table because they're quite expensive. It's a cheaper version, but it's fantastic. The tabletop that sits on it is 35 quid, and the leg and the adjustable stand is yeah, well, I think it was about 70 or 80 pounds, something like that. Spice jars, knife magnet, CO alarm, natural gas detector. I've got a slow cooker, which is yeah, I've burnt stuff in a slow cooker before, and that's true, but I want in this one. £14.99 that was. The whistling cat I mentioned earlier. We've got double ball door catches, self-adhesive wall tiles, cabinet knobs, cabinet handles, drawer runners. They're not cheap. My drawer runners were £166, and how many drawers have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 drawers. So they were like nearly 200 quid. Cabinet hinges, carpet lining, braided hose, all your plumbing stuff. Now the TV, 12-volt telly, only 24 inches, £160. TV bracket for it to go on, £12.70. Fold-up table hinges. You know, the list, it just goes on. Drop-out vents for the floor, wherever you have a gas connection, you have to have a drop-out van for safety. The wall lights, the ones I showed you here, they were another 60 quid for 4 of them. Excuse me. Switch panels, not yet connected. Another 55 quid. Folding brackets. I've got a bracket that comes up and extends the kitchen units out, so I get an extra 400 or 500 mil of worktop space. So they weren't a lot. It was 10 quid. Wood filler, push button latches, 12-volt USB sockets I've got dotted around the van. Flipping heck, I mean, not to mention just the bits I pick up on a whim, you know, extra screws and glue and insulation tape, and but anyway, the final total. Final total. That's everything to the stage I'm at now, and it's not finished. I still have to. I figure by the time I've put the shower in and bought the toilet, which is the toilet's £1,240. It's going to cost me another 2,000 or 3,000, I reckon, to finish. I reckon probably 3,000 to finish the van in its entirety. But drum roll, drum roll. Final total to date to sit in a car park is £41,891.60, and I've run out of milk. Well, I will obviously at some stage do a proper van tour, and all the components we talked about and all the costs involved, I'll break them down one by one. You can see exactly what I got for my money. Yeah, we'll do that in the future.